The Ghost King appeared in an instant. Smoke like black light flowed from his eyes, and his face seemed to have become the mask of a cursed spirit. He roared, a sound that seemed to pierce the sky, but he did not attack. Lu Fan and his group were immediately on alert. Everyone knew he could strike in an instant. Lu Fan. Andra's whisper was both fearful and warning. He is no longer fully human. Half of his body has become like a dragon. Look at his back, there are black wings growing from there. Senior Sister's face turned serious. She stared into the Ghost King's eyes for a moment, then said in a low voice, "His pressure is building up. This calm is before the storm. We have to do something now. The Ghost King might attack." According to the status window, the target was detected. Lu Fan knew that it was our target, and then he immediately ordered Andre not to be impulsive from behind. "Go back to Senior Sister Sorceress, and go up in the air with me first." With that, Andre immediately uses the power of the god's true body, which invokes the power of the superior flame god and increases all attributes to 100% and obtains explosive flame wings for temporary flight. And the duration of the true body is determined by the spiritual attributes. Andre immediately swings his big axe into action and says with a smile, "Although I have never protected the back, but even so, there is no problem here." Senior Sister also raised her hand and nodded, saying, "Okay, I agree with this decision." Lu Fan's eyes flashed with anger. "It can't be too late now," he muttered. He immediately leapt into the air, and so did the others. They were all up together now, ready for battle. Lu Fan stopped looking down as he flew into the sky. His eyes were focused in only one direction, on the Ghost King. "This is no ordinary monster," he said softly. "It's already dead. A ghost, and a king at that." His senses screamed that this battle would not be ordinary. Every moment could be deadly. Lu Fan made a sharp hand gesture. "Now all move forward together." A wave of fire swept through the sky, and all the warriors moved in the same direction rapidly. At the same moment, he loudly commanded, "Xiaoji, transform into destructive dragon form." Something inside Xiaoji began to crack. Black scales began to grow from his body, and a demonic aura began to emanate from his eyes. Wings spread, claws lengthened. He was now transforming into a devastating dragon. But then, the sky echoed. "Gra-ah!" The King of Ghosts suddenly appeared. His roar tore through the atmosphere. The sky was dark. The ghost demon launched his first attack. Death sentence. His sword rose high into the air, and then fell down at lightning speed. This was no ordinary attack. 490 shadow damage. No target can escape. Cooldown 90 seconds. The air stilled as the sword glow shot towards Lu Fan. For a moment, it seemed as if time itself had stopped. But Lu Fan stood there, calm, steady. The sword attack came straight towards him. But just as it reached him, something invisible hit. Trurk. A blue, glowing wall appeared. A pure energy barrier which surrounded the entire team in an instant. Xiao Fai, who was now standing behind, had a serious look in his eyes. He had silently activated Eternal Guardian. This was an ancient defensive skill, which creates a barrier that protects all allies within its radius. The attack hit, but all of the sword's shadow energy was absorbed by the barrier. Lu Fan didn't blink. His posture showed no fear, no reaction. Looking at the energy spreading around him, it was as if he already knew that nothing would happen. The barrier's power was based on Xiaofa's internal health and recovery ability, and right now it was in full force. The terrible attack had failed. The barrier still resonated with a faint glow, as if some divine power held everything in place. Lu Fan smiled slightly. He looked at Xiaofa, who was still standing focused. "Well done," he said in a firm voice, "you saved everyone." Then his gaze turned to Xiaoji. There was warmth in his eyes now, a hero's admiration. He smiled slightly and said, "Xiaoji, now it's your turn. Prepare for the lava explosion." Xiaoji took his place. His chest began to rise slowly, as if a fire was being awakened from within. His head lifted up, eyes turned red, and his breath came out as hot steam. A giant fireball began to form in front of his mouth. It was spherical, but flames danced across its surface. Deep orange, angry red, and a white, burning core within. The whole ground trembled with its heat. The Ghost King looked uncomfortable for the first time. His eyes narrowed, and his sword shook once more. "What is it doing? This fire, why is it so heavy?" His tail thumped the ground with a loud noise. He took a sharp breath, and then, "Grrrr!" With a roar, The enormous fireball was hurled toward the ghost monster. It ripped through the air, blazing, moving at lightning speed. The air burned wherever it passed. The tree branches snapped, the dust on the ground flew. And then, a massive explosion. Waves of fire shot up to the sky, as if lava himself had come and participated in the war. The blazing fireball hit the ghost monster, and the entire ground exploded. The ground shook, flames and ashes spread everywhere, as if a volcano had spewed out all the anger within it. Everyone was stunned for a moment. The ghost monster fell to the ground. His black shadow trembled. A terrible scream came out of his mouth, a scream that mixed pain, anger, and madness. But the next moment, he stood up again. His eyes were no longer red, but black smoke. A new energy began to waver around him, cold, scary, and unholy. Xiaoji unleashed a second blast without stopping, and then a third. Lava balls rained down one after another. But the ghost monster was now directly bearing every attack from Xiaoji. His body was no longer melting into them, but stood still as if the explosions did not affect him at all. The flames danced around him, but there was no pain on his face now, only ferocity. The elder sister, who had been standing beside Lu Fan until now, took a step back. Her face turned pale. She said in a trembling voice, "This is not right. Why? He seems to be swallowing Xiaoji's attacks. This really is no ordinary monster." Her voice was soft, but her words were full of fear. Senior sister's warning rang out in the air, and as soon as she spoke, Bao Bao, who was always ready to jump in first, jumped into action without wasting a moment. Electricity sparked around his body. Every vein, every muscle seemed to be filled with light. Thump! He jumped straight into the battlefield. The ghost demon's eyes suddenly lit up. His head tilted slightly. He was looking at Bao Bao steadily, as if recognizing something forgotten. But then, "Now get ready to attack!" Lu Fan's voice pierced the sky. Senior sister reacted immediately. But it didn't have much of an effect on the ghost demon. His eyes were still fixed on Bao Bao. His face had a strange turmoil, as if he was breaking from within. What is this?" He muttered to himself, and just then, Bao Bao's form began to change. His body became larger and larger. Lines of lightning began to shoot out of his muscles. A bright flash of yellow lightning flashed all around him. He had now become massive. Bao 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 closed his eyes. Then slowly, an ancient chant in the dragon language came out from his lips. 3.3 million thunders of destruction. In the next moment, the sky darkened, the clouds roared, and the storm god descended from the heart of the sky. Lightning tore through the horizon, and 3.3 million thunderbolts came directly onto the monster's body. Every lightning bolt, every flash was a symbol of destruction. The monster screamed miserably. Smoke rose from its skin, its huge body began to bend, but it still hadn't broken. At that very moment, Lu Fan rushed forward with his dragon sword. Flames of blue and golden energy rose up around him. He said in a deep but calm voice, "It's not over yet." He's still standing. We won't retreat. Lu Fan now had a goal in his eyes. He held his dragon sword tightly, and at the same time, he activated the power of Wankong, a power that was intertwined with dragon energy and had the ability to launch a combined attack with its pet companions. Wankong dual strike system activated. As Xiaoji's eyes glowed, lightning danced around Bao Bao again. Everyone's energy flowed in unison. Lu Fan roared and charged forward. His sword was engulfed in burning flames, and his plan was clear: to cut the monster in half with a single strike. But at that very moment, the monster screamed. Its scream was so intense that the wind stopped and a thick black fog spread across the field. Lu Fan suddenly stopped his sword, his eyes on alert. "Shadow protection," he whispered. This was the same power that turned the Ghost King into Miyajima's shadow. When this power is activated, he disappears into smoke and fog and can attack from any direction without any prior warning. But as the ghost monster disappeared, Lu Fan and Andre were stunned for a few moments. There was only thick fog all around, and its echoing scream was now just a faint echo left in their ears. This shadow dragon was just here," Andre said as he tightened his weapon. "Where did it disappear to?" Nearby, senior sister's eyes flashed with worry. She immediately looked at Lu Fan and said, "Lu Fan, either it has disappeared or it is hovering around us somewhere. Immediately tell Xiaoji to use his detection power." But Lu Fan interrupted her by shaking his head. "No, that's not possible. His voice was now more serious than before. This is his skill, shadow protection. When he activates it, no detection power can detect him. It's a state of complete concealment. Silence spread. No, Lu Fan's eyes darted around. We have to be extremely cautious. He could appear from any direction, at any moment. Suddenly, Lu Fan's eyes lit up. He had a plan. He didn't waste any time looking at Andre and gesturing with his head. Andre didn't ask anything, he just smiled slightly. He understood. He walked forward. As Andre walked forward through the fog, Senior Sister's worried voice echoed from behind. "Hey! Don't go there! Can you be so careless? You don't know where it is." But Andre didn't stop. His movements were full of confidence. He knew he was being bluffed, a trap set by Lu Fan. And just at that moment, with a terrifying scream, the shadow monster came out of the fog, its eyes piercing Andra. "Andra!" Senior Sister's scream echoed again. "Watch your back!" "Protect!" No, but it was too late. The demon's terrible sword flashed in the air, and in one stroke the ground was torn apart. There was a huge explosion. Andre's body was buried under the rubble. A cloud of dust rose up. Senior Sister gasped. "No, Andra!" She turned to Lu Fan, her eyes filled with anger and tears. "Lu Fan! How could you be so cold-hearted? Did you send him to die?" The dust was still in the air. Lu Fan stood still. There was no fear on his face, only a staring faith. But then, Senior Sister's eyes were filled with tears. Her body was shaking. She was just about to say something when she felt a warm sensation on her shoulder. She slowly turned her head and looked back. Andra, he was standing there, smiling, completely unharmed. Senior Sister couldn't believe her eyes. "You," Andre said softly, "don't worry. What you saw wasn't me. It was just my reflection." Senior Sister was stunned. "Reflection?" Andre nodded. "Yes, mirror image. An ancient technique that creates two mirror images, one of which looks like the real thing, and the other is meant to trap." He was silent for a while, then smiled. "I figured out Lu Fan's plan then. And I knew that tricking this demon was the only way. He attacked a shadow, not me." Relief flashed in Senior Sister's eyes, but her face was still serious. "And now?" Andre's smile deepened. "No. This demon has fallen for our trick, and let Lu Fan decide his end." Andre looked at Senior Sister, smiled, and said softly, "How do you feel? Now accept it. When we are together, no one can stop us." Senior Sister took a deep breath. There was a slight gleam in her eyes. "You two really scared me." Then her smile became even softer. But what to do now? Maybe this was the best way. Where at that very moment, Lu Fan spoke in a very calm voice, but there was a blazing fire in his eyes. He raised his sword. Blue and black dragon energy burst out of his sword. "Of course, you and we will take responsibility and not miss this opportunity." In a gesture, he began to give instructions to everyone. There was no hesitation in his voice anymore. "Shuji, prepare for the lava explosion. Bao Bao, prepare for the next attack." He then took a deep look at Xiao Fei and said in a calm voice, "Xiao Fei, now is the time. Use the power of the dragon domain. We will not let this monster return to Miaosmin. That will be the end of him." Dragon domain. This was no ordinary power. This was the most ancient power of the dragon race. Xiao Fei's eyes glowed blue. Gold light began to spread around him. As he roared, an ancient dragon circle formed in the sky, slowly descending to the ground. This circle, which spanned a radius of 100 meters, became a trap for the demon. Lines of dragon symbols formed from all directions, like an ancient battle mantra being repeated. And then, as the power activated, the ghost demon screamed, "No! What's happening? My power is gone." The black shadow seemed to burn from his body. 50% of his power was slowly being deactivated. At that very moment, Xiao Ji, who had been preparing for a lava explosion this whole time, now began to exude blazing heat from his breath. Its mouth opened and a huge, glowing, ember-like sphere began to form before it, so huge that the entire field began to tremble with its heat. As Xiao Fei's dragon domain activated and Xiao Ji's lava explosion began to rain fire from the sky, Bao did not stay quiet either. Lightning flashed in his eyes and he roared, "Heaven's punishment!" A roar echoed from the sky, and then streams of lightning began to fall upon the monster from every direction. Fast, ferocious, and unstoppable, each lightning ray was a celestial judgment, as if heaven itself had come forward to destroy him. Attacks were coming from all three directions. Lava from below, lightning from above, and the dragon domain from all sides. The monster, who once played with shadows, was now itself transformed into burning darkness. His screams echoed across the field. The black shadows began to melt, his bones began to break. He wanted to flee. But there was no way left, and finally, a terrible explosion and everything was quiet. Only ashes scorched ground. The status window chimed in. The blue dragon has entered a level up. The black dragon has now reached level 46. The shadow monster has been eliminated. A special item has been obtained. A crown of ether shade, a mystical crown. Lu Fan slowly walks forward. His breathing is heavy, but his gaze is steady. The crown lying on the ground is in front of him, made of gold, with intricate lines engraved on the edges. This was no ordinary crown. He picks it up without hesitation. His gaze gets stuck on a stone embedded in the middle of the crown, black, with waves of light purple floating somewhere inside. Lu Fan's eyes narrowed. This is the Shadow Stone, he said to himself. He stared at it for a moment, then his fingers instinctively curled around the stone. His understanding was clear: it can be broken. Lu Fan applies a lot of pressure on his hand, which causes the crown to instantly break and the 3 stones to scatter. Lu Fan knew that all the broken items except the shadow fountain were collected there. There were even some extra items that could be sold in exchange for all the dragon coins. The status window shows that this stone is known as Shadow Obsidian and has been obtained. The status window shows the status of all the shadows. All 3 have been obtained. The Ancient God Crystal has also been obtained. Shadow Island Breath, 300 out of 569 have been obtained. Shadow Fountain Water is currently 0 out of 50. Senior Sister walked towards her with rapid steps. Her face flushed and her eyes filled with anger. You should have told me. Her voice was trembling, but it also contained layers of sadness and fear. Your plan used Andre's reflection. I really thought you sacrificed him. Lu Fan said nothing. Because of you, I had to face fear. Senior Sister's voice became softer, but her eyes were still burning with questions. What if something really happened to Andre? Hey, miss, calm down now. Senior Sister turned around in surprise. Andre was walking up from behind, sword resting on his shoulder with the same light, mischievous smile on his face that was his trademark. I'm fine. And anyway, Lu Fan is an expert at faking deaths like this. He joked. You believed I died, so that means my acting was good. Lu Fan gently rubbed his head as if to hide some fatigue, then said with a slight smile, next time I use the mirror, I'll definitely let you know. He paused for a moment and looked at Senior Sister. But this time, if I told you in advance, the demon would have become suspicious. He would have been cautious and would never have fallen into our trap. But Senior Sister's face was still stern. She didn't say anything, just kept looking at Lu Fan. Suddenly, the same voice echoed again, the same cold, echoing voice, as if bouncing off the walls of a closed room. You are indeed an extraordinary person. Now my king is free. Lu Fan's eyes became bright and alert. He stood still for a moment. The next moment, there was a vibration in the air. Piercing the layer of darkness, an old man appeared. His eyes were deep, as if hundreds of years of time had been frozen in them. White beard, long robe, and an old but shining sword in his hand. He bowed in front of Lu Fan with complete respect. Hero, please accept my respect. His voice trembled, but it was not fear but expectation. I have been waiting for this day for a very long time. Lu Fan heard the mysterious voice echoing. Now my king is free. Without a second thought, Lu Fan grabbed the sword with both hands. The sword wasn't heavy, but its spirit was deep. Its blade shone like old wounds, and as Lu Fan held it, a quiet seriousness descended on him. His eyes looked beyond the glow of the sword, to the past, to the souls that now needed peace. The old man stepped forward slowly and spoke in a calm voice. Now I can give this sword to you, so that the dead souls on the island can rest in peace. He paused, looked up to the sky as if being relieved of an invisible burden, then laughed. A light, tired laugh. The kind that only those who have fulfilled a duty for the last time laugh. Finally, the people of Tianfu Island can now rest in peace. He looked at Lu Fan, eyes filled with gratitude, reverence, and the end of a long wait. You have restored Tianfu Island to its original state. Thank you very much for that. And now? He took a deep breath. I too keep my promise. The future of the Tianfu region is now in your hands, and I'll now entrust it to you. His words lingered in the air. Something strange was happening in the air. The atmosphere around them suddenly changed, as if some invisible force had touched the sky. The clouds that had been rumbling till now suddenly shuddered. And then the sky burst. A flash of lightning tore through the darkness. Streams of blue and purple light descended to the ground, as if an ancient gate between heaven and earth was opening. The two people who were hiding behind a rock nearby were stunned by this sight. One said in a disbelieving voice, "The storm disappeared." The other's eyes shimmered in the light and he blurted out, This is incredible." The other man standing with them, an old warrior whose eyes had seen many battles, sighed and said, "This means Andre and the Dragon Tamer have succeeded. Now that Shadow Island belonged to Lu Fan." The status window flashed in front of him. "The territorial system has been unlocked. New territory owner Lu Fan territory T Tianfu status restored." Lu Fan stared at the glowing window for a moment. Senior sister stood behind him. The two looked at the status window together. At that moment, senior sister's eyes were filled with a light smile. Who had once hoped that she would inherit the family territory, now spoke very calmly. "Compared to inheriting the family territory from me, you got it all by yourself." Her voice was not jealous, but a soft acceptance. Lu Fan thought to himself that the new facility area not only produces resources every day, but also has a fixed income and worldwide monster refresh, which can serve as a stable experience bridge. The status window shows Shadow Island. The name of that area is Tianfu Island. Area 43,800 square kilometers. Location Black Sand Sea River area resources. Lu Fan's lips formed a light smile. Now Shadow Island will be purified, he thought to himself. And one day it will become a heavenly lamp. A storm of thoughts rose within him. I can now open the port for trade. Resources produced here can be traded. If I want, I can accept commissions from the outside world to exorcise demons. Or make it a holiday island. Then his face became a little serious. And I can come and go whenever I want. His eyes deepened. Lu Fan now had a special power. He could summon storm clouds and thick fog at will, or banish them. This would prevent outsiders from entering the island. And whatever resources were produced here, they were no longer ordinary. They were transformed into Shadow Island versions, which were only found here. The island was now his. Now, the wild monsters on Shadow Island had also changed. They had become the same ferocious and monstrous beasts that Lu Fan had faced before. This brought a satisfied smile to Lu Fan's face. Now I can release my dragons and puppets onto the continent. He thought, they can fight these monsters and grow stronger. The island was no longer just a refuge, but a training ground, where power could be forged. Slowly, Lu Fan, senior sister, and the others walked forward. As they walked, Lu Fan said to senior sister, "We can also open teleportation here, since it's a great skill." Senior sister smiled and said, "That's really great. Now that the island is beautiful and safe, you can show it off to everyone else." But amid the happy atmosphere, Andre seemed a little worried. He stopped as soon as Lu Fan's gaze fell on him. "Hey, what happened to you?" Lu asked with a slight smile. Andre took a deep breath, then put his hands on his head and said, "My mission was to destroy the Shadow Spring. But I searched the palace for a long time, and only found one spring. That wasn't even the real Shadow Spring." Senior sister's eyes lit up when she heard this. "Of course, there's a hidden area here," she said. "I'll help you find it." Lu Fan stepped forward and said, "Wait a minute, take me to the spring you found. Maybe I can help you switch it to Shadow Spring." Andre was startled. "Switch? What do you mean?" Senior sister smiled and said, "Yes, Andre, are you forgetting? This island belongs to Lu Fan now. He will definitely find a way." Everyone then moved on. About 10 minutes later, they arrived at the Fukushima ruins, called the Place Garden, an old but mysterious place. Andre looked around and said, "My family has a large plot of land, but I don't own anything." Lu Fan looked at the waterfall and smiled softly. "I thought it would be a small waterfall, but it's huge." Senior sister couldn't help herself as she saw the waterfall. She walked forward with a childlike joy, as if she had been touched by a soothing breeze after so many years. The coolness of the waterfall enveloped her deeply. She felt like taking a bath. Lu Fan looked at the bridge and said with a smile, "I didn't expect this bridge to be so huge and old." The three now slowly walked towards the waterfall. Their steps were slow, but their hearts were full of excitement. And Andre looked at the waterfall carefully and said, "Now I see why you said it could be changed." Meaning it could be changed back into Shadow Fountain, right? Lu Fan nodded slightly. Yes, if it's the same waterfall, then we can connect it to Shadow Island again. And that gate will open again. Senior sister walked up to the waterfall and started playing with the water. Drops of water splashed from her hands, and she smiled and said, "The waterfall water is so clean. I feel like taking a bath right now." Lu Fan laughed and said, "Then take a bath, no problem." But then, something strange was felt. Senior sister's smile stopped. She looked at the water closely, her eyes widened. "Wait, this water," she said softly. "There's something in it." She smiled again and said, "This water is 50% magical. I just touched a little bit and I felt my muscles get heavier. I'm getting stronger." Andre's eyes lit up. "Really? Then I'll try it too." He quickly dipped his hand into the water. After a few moments, he said loudly, "Oh my God, you were right. I too am feeling something, as if electricity has passed through my body." Lu Fan exclaimed in surprise, "This blessing spring water is amazing. It can increase all our abilities from 3% to 30% at every level." Senior sister's eyes lit up, "That powerful. So I can upgrade it over 90 times. The status window revealed. This water is called Blessing Spring Water. Users can touch it for 10 seconds and increase their abilities by 330% according to that level. But if someone has already upgraded to that level or above, it won't work." Senior sister immediately made plans, smiling, "This is priceless stuff. It can be bottled and sold for a very high price. Shall I contact Tianfu's boss lady? Just take a small commission." Lu Fan laughed and said, "Hey big sister, stop being crazy. I have no intention of selling it. First I have to help Andre finish the job." He then clicked on the status window and watched as the area turned into Shadow Islands. Suddenly, lightning flashed in the sky. The two men looked at each other in surprise. The first man asked, "Why are things changing? What is happening?" The second man standing next to him said, "Maybe this is the moment. Lu Fan and Andre are really succeeding." Seeing the situation, Lu Fan and his whole group sprang into action. Xiao Fei also immediately started waving the flag in the air. Lu Fan immediately entrusted Xiao Fu with the responsibility of protection and care. The status window said, "The Shadow Fountain is an epic quality material which has been polluted by the power of the blessed light spring shadow of Shadow Island and has now turned into a waterfall of miasma." Andre revealed, "Lu Fan, now I understand. The real purpose of destroying the Shadow Waterfall was to harm your region's resources." Lu Fan smiled and said, "Don't worry, brother. Once you're done, I'll find someone to fix it." Senior sister also laughed and said, "Since it's being fixed, I think the whole ruined city will shine again." Andre smiled as he raised his hammer. "Wow, that's too kind." And then he hit the ground with his big hammer, which caused a strange vibration. And Andre said, "Brother, I'll build you a paradise for the holidays." Lu Fan and everyone returned to their huge ship. Lu Fan said, "The journey to the islands is now complete. Now we can definitely return home. This journey was really rewarding. Not only did I get a large amount of synthesis materials, but I also unlocked my own region. And Andre's mission was also completed, for which he will receive a good reward." Everyone's faces reflected satisfaction and hope. Lu Fan looked at the newly captured territory, but it was now largely ruined. Andre felt heavy-hearted. He handed Lu Fan a book and said, "I will help you resettle this island." Andre smiled and said, "This is a book with an extremely powerful skill. It will be useful to you." A cool breeze was blowing gently on the boat. Senior sister was lost in her thoughts. Shadow Falls will be resettled, so she will definitely come there. Lu Fan was also thinking to himself, "We have to gather all the materials for the 100 Dragon King contract." Finally, the warship delivered everyone back to Breaking Waves Port, where they had first departed. Andre had already prepared a transport array to send Lu Fan and Ye Wuxian back to Dragon Capital University. Before leaving, Lu Fan gave Andre 20 bottles of fortune-glowing spring water, which could help significantly increase his attributes. Meanwhile, Andre promised that he would quickly have his family's high-level engineers produce a design for rebuilding Shadow Isle, striving to let Lu Fan, as the territory master, live comfortably on his own territory. After parting ways at Breaking Waves Port, Lu Fan and Ye Wuxian returned to Dragon Capital University. At this time, There were still a few days before the Ye family's truce would be lifted, so Lu Fan was not in any hurry to head to the western border. Moreover, although he had collected the crafting materials like Shadow Isle Essence, Shadow Spring Water, and Shadow Crown, he still lacked certain materials for the Shadow Dragon King contract. The prosperous Heaven Auction House was currently acquiring these for him, and they should be able to obtain everything in the next few days. By then, once he could summon the Shadow Dragon King Blade of Darkness, it would be the perfect time to go to the western border. 1 week later, Lu Fang took over Shadow Island and then turned off the defense system, allowing all the puppet senpai to finally create monsters. As soon as Lu Fan arrived at Will No 2, he met all the companions present there. There was a spark of hope in their eyes, a new beginning. Lu Fan put forward a plan to take everyone to Shadow Island without delay. But this time he made a wise decision. He installed a teleportation gate within Will No 2 to make the journey smooth and fast. As soon as the gate was activated, Sister Han Kim, Jaya Oman, and everyone else reached Shadow Island without wasting any time. The atmosphere there was already light and quiet, but as soon as everyone arrived, the place started echoing with laughter and fun. Jia Omen and Jian Ying got so engrossed in football that it seemed as if they had forgotten all the worries of the world. Their laughter with every collision of the ball started adding a sweet noise to the silence of the forest. On the other side, some people went down the waterfall and started washing their tiredness in the drops of cold water. Every drop of water seemed to refresh the soul along with the body. The lines of time blurred there. The feeling of day and night vanished. Everyone was living that moment in their own way. It felt as if the definition of home had changed for some time. On the other hand, Andre's team was busy repairing Shadow Island as the Shadow Spring got damaged due to Entry's search, and now they will be able to collect the spring water, only after its repair is completed. Andre's team, on the other hand, was working in earnest on Shadow Island. Recent events had shaken the land to its core. Shadow Spring in particular, once believed to be the source of both darkness and life, was now badly damaged. Its structural balance had been broken during the search and security efforts for the entry point. After a while, a golden figure suddenly emerged from the steam of the hot spring. In the shimmering light, the figure looked like a divine entity. But it was none other than Lu Fan himself. The spring filled with pure energy created a light golden aura around his body. He emerged from the water, unaware that he was completely naked. At that moment, there was a movement from behind. The sound of someone's footsteps and then a familiar voice echoed. "So this is where you hid Lu Fan?" Senior sister almost shouted. There was anger in her voice, or perhaps hurt hope. Lu Fan panicked. He looked at his clothes lying by the water, but senior sister had already started running towards him. "Wait, don't come!" Lu Fan stopped her, holding out his palm. I'm not ready yet." But senior sister ignored her and said, "Why didn't you tell us there was a hot spring here? We're all tired." Her voice was reproachful, but just as she reached the edge of the spring, she slipped. "Hey, be careful." Lu Fan called from behind, but it was too late. Senior sister slipped and fell right on Lu Fan. Everything stopped for a moment. A few drops of water seemed to linger in the air. An awkward silence fell between the two, broken only by the rapid heartbeat. Lu Fan's eyes were hesitant. Senior sister's eyes were full of surprise, and perhaps something else. Senior sister sat down on the ground and rubbed her wet eyelids. "This place is really slippery." Now I understand why Lu Fan's eyes fell to the ground. His face was burning with embarrassment, and he mumbled softly, "Big sister, why are you here?" His voice reflected the uneasiness that anyone would feel when they see themselves naked. Senior sister smiled. Her smile had a childlike mischief in it, but also a touch of affection. "Why is your face so red?" She bent down and came closer to Lu Fan. "Are you very shy?" Lu Fan immediately turned his face away and stuttered. "Not at all, just this waterfall is very hot." "Yes, the waterfall itself is very hot." There was no hiding the lie in her tone, but senior sister said nothing. She simply stood up, straightened her dress, and became serious. "Okay," she said. "I won't bother you anymore. But there's a message from Enri. The repairs to Shadow Island are complete." And Lu Fan, he who had been hiding himself in the warmth of the water, suddenly stood upright. His eyes were now filled with a new determination, replacing his shyness. Then the time has come, he said softly. After getting out of the waterfall, Lu Fan put on his clothes. He then returned to the waterfall in a non-stop manner. In his hands was a glowing crystal, a kind of magic instrument that he used to test the purity of water. He sat by the waterfall, and as he dipped the crystal into the water, it glowed with a light blue light. A slight smile appeared on his face. Now the gap has been filled, Lu Fan said to himself, as if he had fulfilled an old unfulfilled promise. Senior sister, who was still standing nearby, said in a slightly worried voice, "After all this time, what are you really trying to make up, Lu Fan?" At that very moment, there was a slight vibration in the air. A status window appeared in front of Lu Fan, with a blinking light. Shadow Dragon King Contract Crafting Diagram Name Shadow Dragon King Contract Dark Blade Type Summon Contract Sepic Grady Use Limit 3 times Duration 1 hour per use Scaling the level of the summoned Shadow Dragon King. Dark Blade will be equal to the user's current level. Effects: the contract can summon Shadow Dragon King. Dark Blade upon use, the summoned entity will be forced to follow the user's commands. Its sword, Eben Severance, releases waves of darkness that can damage enemies' souls. A cooldown period will apply after each used AG 24 hours. Special warning: if the summoned power is used at an inappropriate time or with an unbalanced heart, the Shadow Dragon King may even refuse to recognize its master. Lu Fan wasted no time in clicking yes on the status window. As soon as he clicked, a glowing scroll appeared in his hands. Waves of divine light radiated around it. Senior sister's eyes widened. Eyes, is this the scroll? I think it is. Lu Fan smiled and tossed the scroll into the air and brought it in front of Xiaofei, saying, "Xiaofei, swallow this scroll." Xiaofei put the scroll in her mouth without the slightest hesitation. Amid the golden glow, she swallowed the entire scroll in just a few moments. Senior sister was shocked to see this. Her eyes flashed with worry, then anger. "Lu Fan, are you really crazy? You let Xiaofei eat that scroll." Lu Fan remained calm. He looked at her with a smile and said, "It contains engraving, a special coded script which will now be embedded inside Xiaofei. This scroll will now become her skill, and you will be able to use it countless times in the future." Senior sister was silent for a while. Her eyes gradually softened. Lu Fan raised his hand seriously. His voice echoed, "Xiaofei, now is not the time to pretend. You must reveal your true form." Xiaofei immediately sprang into action. A pale blue light flashed in his eyes and energy began to swirl around him. The process began. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. But nothing changed. Lu Fan's eyebrows furrowed. He looked around, then said worriedly, "What is this? The summon failed. How is that possible?" And just then, a flash flashed in the sky and the status window appeared. Contract Shadow Dragon King Level 47. Form changes: Baby Dragon Form. Combat Form. A Strength of 109.72, Agility of 3,287, Spirit 4807, Stamina 148, Dragon Skin. Its skin can weaken the power of any special attack by 90%. It has strong immunity to negative effects. Shadow Bloodline, it can exempt all debuffs. Self-healing recovery is increased by 1500%. Shadow Dragon Formation, Shadow Dragon Blade. Ignores 90% physical defense and has a shield, breaking effect. Shadow Concealment. It will not exit the hiding state when attacked. When entering the hiding state, resist any kind of attack. Attack the weak point to increase the additional damage by 1600%. Teleport behind the target and immediately unleash a wind blade, damaging surrounding enemies and clearing all surrounding shadow. Advance. Buffs the enemy's status. Shadow Shroud. Allows teammates to achieve Shadow Concealment effect and release Shadow Mist. Shadow Death Field. Instantly move forward a certain distance, and all targets within the distance receive 800% attack damage. Shadow Flash. Damage lasts for 6 minutes, reducing all attributes within target range. Shadow Cloak. Shadow Attack. Shadow Purification. Continuously release Shadow Flash in the Shadow Death Field, which lasts for 1 minute. I was amazed. Agility so great. Is this unusual skill really the result of a system flaw? Senior sister was still speechless. She joked, "Are you daydreaming? Are you trying to say I failed?" Lu Fan looked at senior sister and smiled. "It's a game of hide and seek," he said in a calm voice. But just then the sky exploded. A huge dragon appeared, a circle of glowing energy surrounding it, red eyes, the ground trembling. An unusual, terrifying power. It roared. Senior sister was stunned. "Oh, did you find another dragon? And it can also turn invisible." She added, "This is an unusual dragon. Do you want to test its power?" Lu Fan's eyes were shining.